The day I decided to install those security cameras around my pool, I had this gut feeling I was poking the HOA bear, you know? But what I didn't count on was how fast Karen, yeah, our fearless HOA president, would completely lose it. And, honestly, I figured she'd throw a fit, maybe send another one of those passive-aggressive letters, but nope. This time, her husband decided to join the drama, whipping out his phone to call the cops like he was reporting a bank robbery, not a few cameras. There I was, just tightening a mount, minding my own business, when I hear Karen yelling from the fence, her face as red as a stop sign. "You can't do that. It's against HOA rules." Hands on her hips, voice echoing down the block. I tried to keep my cool, told her it was just for our protection, with all the recent break-ins, but that only made her madder. Her husband storms over, phone in hand, threatening to call 911, and I'm just standing there thinking, is this really happening? Over a security system? You ever get that feeling, like you just tripped a landmine and now everybody's watching to see what happens next? Yeah, that happened. As soon as he dialed, I felt the tension snap, neighbors peeking through blinds, Karen's voice getting shriller, her husband puffing up. Sirens start up in the distance and I realize, oh boy, this is about to turn into a show. I should have been nervous, but mostly I just felt this slow, burning anger. My house, my family, my peace of mind. Apparently, those don't mean a thing when you've got Karen on the warpath. See, my backyard's always been my little piece of paradise. Quiet, birds, a pool I worked years to afford. After city living, it felt like finally breathing easy. But ever since we moved in, there'd been this low-level hum of HOA nonsense. Complaints about my trash bins, a stern note about how I trimmed the hedge, and let's not even talk about the infamous driveway incident. I'd always try to play along, thinking it'd buy me some peace. Spoiler alert, it never does. But this time, it was different. I wasn't just dealing with letters. Karen made it personal, marching over like she owned the place, her husband scowling from behind her. It was always something with her. Mailbox too bright, grass too long, yard art distracting to the community. Her husband never said much, just hovered, glared, let her do the dirty work. Until now. The last straw for me was hearing about another break-in just a couple blocks away, a neighbor's car window. Smashed, stuff stolen, cops coming up empty. I wasn't waiting to be next. So I invested in a real system. Cameras around the pool, motion sensors, alerts on my phone. For once, I felt like I could relax. Didn't take long before Karen came storming down the path, eyes locked on those new cameras like they were guns pointed at her. "You can't do that," she barked, hands planted like a referee. HOA rules, page 17. No cameras, no structures, nothing that can be considered an eyesore. I asked her to show me where, because I'd read the bylaws myself. She just waved a stack of papers and scolded me for being naive. By then, my patience was wearing thin. I'd already bent over backward for these people. Now I was supposed to let them tell me I couldn't even protect my family? Not a chance, I told her. If you want to fight, you're getting one. Her eyes narrowed, voice dropped to a hiss. "You'll regret this. The HOA will fine you into next week." She stalked off, her husband right behind, but I could tell this wasn't over. The next day, she was back, with her husband, and this time, he was doing the talking. "You need to listen to her," he said, low and cold. "The HOA will take legal action if you don't comply." I almost laughed. Legal action? Over security cameras? But his eyes were dead serious, and that's when I realized this wasn't just about the rules, it was about control. He starts dialing 911 right in front of me, tells the dispatcher there's an illegal installation causing a disturbance. Karen's grabbing my arm, trying to get me to back down, but I wasn't budging. "Call whoever you want," I said, "but I'm not taking anything down." The sirens rolled up sooner than I expected. I braced myself for the worst. Officer steps out. Big guy, real no-nonsense type. Looks from me to Karen and her husband. Picks up on the tension right away. Karen launches into her speech about community standards and dangerous precedent. Her husband nodding like a ventriloquist's dummy. Officer takes it all in, then turns to me. I tell him straight. I'm just trying to keep my family safe. The cameras are legal. Check the city code. There's this moment. Could have gone either way. The officer studies the setup, walks the perimeter, asks a few pointed questions. Finally, he shrugs. I don't see a crime here. HOA rules aren't law. If there's a problem, that's a civil matter, not for the police. The look on Karen's face, let me tell you, if looks could kill, I'd have dropped right there. Her husband tries. One last time, but the officer just tells him to take it up with the board. The second the cop leaves, Karen and her husband close in, muttering threats, promising this isn't over. And you know what? For the first time, I felt something shift. Not fear, relief. Vindication. I'd stood my ground, and it felt good. But here's the twist. After that showdown, the whole dynamic in the neighborhood changed. People I barely knew started stopping by. Mrs. Harris, who never says a word to anyone, knocks on my door. Good for you, she whispers. You're not alone in this. Frank across the street, always quiet, suddenly grinning at me, says, about time someone stood up to them. But it wasn't all sunshine. Karen's little fan club doubled down, glaring at me from their porches, whispering as I walked by. Invitations to neighborhood barbecues? Yeah, those dried up fast. I became the troublemaker, the one who rocked the boat. But every time I thought about caving, about tearing those cameras down, I remembered that feeling of standing up for something that mattered. As weeks rolled by, I started hearing from neighbors who'd had their own run-ins with Karen and her rules. One guy found a parking ticket on his own driveway. Another got a letter about a flower pot being out of compliance. Little stuff, but you add it up, and you see it's not about keeping the neighborhood nice. It's about control. So, I started digging. Found the original HOA bylaws, the ones Karen and her crew had updated over the years. Mrs. Harris found some too. Turns out, a lot of what Karen claimed was set in stone was just her own interpretation, twisted over time. When I brought that to the next HOA meeting, people started listening. Frank stood up, called for a vote on fair enforcement. The air in the room changed. People realized they didn't have to live in fear of fines and threats. Karen, to her credit, tried to hold on, tried to rally her loyalists, but the spell was broken. The board agreed to review the bylaws, make the rules fair, and suddenly, the neighborhood felt like a community again. Karen wasn't gone. She was still watching, still muttering, but her grip was slipping. And me? I got to keep my security system and my dignity. I can't say everything's perfect now, but I'll tell you this. When you finally push back against people who use the rules to control, you realize you're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for everyone who's too scared to speak up. And that, my friend, feels better than any pool party or perfect lawn ever could. So let me throw it to you. Have you ever had to face down an HOA or anyone else who tried to bully you with rules? Did you back down or did you stand your ground? Drop your story below. Let's talk about where the line is between keeping the peace and keeping control. Because honestly, I think it's time more people started drawing that line for themselves.